Welcome to the Blue Heart Podcast. I'm your host and conversational guide, Lieutenant Joe Pangaro. This podcast is for you, the men and women of law enforcement, because ours is a noble profession, worthy of your heart, your passion, and your life. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter.
Hey, everybody. Lieutenant Joe here. You know, one of the questions we get all the time, no matter what our job is in law enforcement, is what is the best way to talk to people? Because really, if you break down all of law enforcement, the reality is that our work comes down to getting information out of people. That's the bottom line. We can do search warrants. We can do investigations on all kinds of things. We have police cars. We chase people around. We do all that. The key to law enforcement work, to being successful at law enforcement, is to be able to talk to people. That doesn't matter if you're a patrol officer, corrections officer, a detective, a supervisor. In every aspect of law enforcement, information is really what we deal with. We deal in information, right? We get information from witnesses, from victims, from accused, right? From all kinds of different people that come forward to tell us, hey, here's what I saw, here's what I heard, here's what I did, whatever it is. So today we're going to talk real quick on a couple of things for you to consider. There's some important terms you need to understand. Now, like most of police work, understanding the psychological implications of a human being's mind and how it functions is going to help you as a law enforcement officer do your job better. If you know what makes people tick, then you can understand body language. You can understand the responses that they give you. So my book, The Interview, right, is available from one of our sponsors, which is Blue 360 Media. They have their poster right up there. Blue360media.com is the greatest publisher for all things law enforcement. All right. So I was honored and privileged when they asked me if I could write a book about interview, street interview, custodial interview, all that kind of stuff. Because one of the things I teach is interview techniques and tactics. It made me a successful patrol officer and a successful detective and a supervisor, you name it. It changed the course of my career by being able to speak to people properly, to interpret their answers, and then lead the conversation where it needed to go. So The Interview is a soup to nuts explanation of how to conduct a criminal interview. There's all kinds of stories in there. There's all kinds of examples that I give so that you can do it too. That's the whole idea. Anybody can do this. I didn't start out as a great investigator and a great interviewer. I had to learn how to do it. I learned the techniques. I learned the fundamentals. I started to understand human beings and what made them tick. And then I applied that to the things I learned. And eventually I kind of got it and I got good at it. And I got to, write it down so that it can help you. So a couple of the things we're going to talk about here, a couple of the psychological things that are important for you to understand about dealing with other people, human beings. If we look at the vast majority of people that we're going to come across, I'm going to say 98% of them, 98% of all the people we come across are normal human beings that interact with other people normally. Now, within that group, of course, there are the criminals, the career criminals that, while they are normal in capacity for the way they deal with life, they have chosen to do things criminally for whatever reason. It's sometimes they like it. Sometimes it's just all they can do to make money, or they've just fallen into that trap that's how they live. The other 2% of people are sociopaths, and they see the world completely different than the rest of us. All right. So the basic difference here, first thing we want to understand is normal, 98% of everybody. And that's why these techniques and tactics work with almost every single human being you come across. And then there are the 2% of people out there that are sociopaths. And to understand what a sociopath is a person who does not really have any emotional connection to other human beings, doesn't care about other people's suffering, about what they go through, anything they have to deal with. That would be my rescue dog joining in on the conversation. It's Arthur, the rescue dog. So anyway, and he's told a different way of talking to people. So the reality is that sociopaths don't care about anybody else's feeling or suffering. So the techniques that work on normal people, the 98% of us, don't necessarily work on sociopaths, but there's things we can do to interact with them. All right. So first thing we want to understand is the term cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. Cognitive means thinking. Dissonance means disarray. So when people are confident in what they're doing, if they're not doing anything to get themselves in trouble, they're going to think clearly. And then you start asking them questions. And you're going to see the same kind of responses. They're going to look you in the eye. They're going to listen to your question. They're going to answer your question. They might think for a minute, and then give you an answer. All perfectly normal responses, all very good. The thing that changes that makes cognitive dissonance happen, is the next thing we need to understand, and that is jeopardy. When somebody has jeopardy, that changes everything about how they communicate. Right? So 80% of human communication is body language. And I'm going to do a program on body language coming up very soon. But right now, 80% of everything we do is body language. Right? And what changes your body language, what changes the words you use, what changes the way you answer questions, the physicality of your body, where your eyes go, all that kind of stuff is because of jeopardy. When somebody has jeopardy, when they can suffer a consequence, that's what changes everybody's behavior and everything that moves. The sociopath, on the other hand, remember, they don't care about what they did. So that's not going to move them. And we'll talk about them separately. So once we understand that jeopardy is the key, part of our conversation, whether it's roadside or in a custodial interview, is that we want to poke at that jeopardy. We want to get them uncomfortable to feeling like, the walls are closing in on them. And that's going to enhance the way their body language shows, the way their words show, the way their brain shows. And that's what's going to enhance cognitive dissonance. All right. So people are going to be uncomfortable if they've done something wrong. And now you're talking to them. They're going to try and hide it. They're going to try and lie. They're going to obfuscate. They're going to try and get away from it as best they can. And when they do that, it's because they have jeopardy and they don't want to suffer the penalty of whatever they've done. So cognitive dissonance looks like this. First, let me show you non-cognitive dissonance. Good morning. The reason I stopped you is you came out from behind a closed business and it's 2 a.m. Oh, sorry, officer. As embarrassing as this sounds, I was on my way home and I'm working late and I really had to go to the bathroom. So I pulled behind there and I took a pee. Sorry. Oh, okay. There's no cognitive dissonance there. The guy did something. It was weird, but he told you what he did. Now that's a strange example, but how many times do we see people do things because of, bodily functions? So here's what cognitive dissonance looks like if the person was back there checking doors, prying doors, looking for stuff, doing things they shouldn't have been doing. Good morning. Listen, the reason I stopped you is you're coming out from behind a closed business and it's 2:00 in the morning. Do you work there? Do I work there? Yeah. Do you work at any one of those businesses? Why were you back there? I used to work here. I used to work, it's not here anymore, but it used to be a golf store. And I was just driving by and I just wanted to, take a look. That's all. And it's not there. So I'm leaving. So what cognitive dissonance looks like, and here's how it works. When I've done nothing wrong, I can explain weird things. Like, why was I behind a building? I can explain that clearly. When I've done something wrong and I'm facing jeopardy, now when you ask me questions, I have to be very, very careful of what I say, don't I? I was back there checking doors to see if any was open so I could steal things. They're not going to tell you that. So what happens is their thinking is in disarray because they're trying to find a way to tell you something so that you'll leave them alone and they can get out of there. So you'll hear broken sentences. Well, I was just checking because I used to work there, right? Because their brain is thinking so quick. They weren't expecting your questions or to get stopped. So they're all goofed up and you'll hear that broken sentences. You'll also hear repeated questions. The reason somebody repeats a question back to you or stalls, hey, what were you doing behind that business? What was I doing behind the business? Yes, I'm talking to you. You're the one in the car. They just came out from behind a bit. What were you doing back there? So you'll hear stalls either as actual silences where they're trying to think of what to say and what not to say. You'll hear that cognitive dissonance where they ramble along, or you'll hear the question repeated back to you, which buys them time to think. Now, they're not sitting there going, I need to buy time to think. It's just a natural response to people under jeopardy to buy time to think. What did you just ask me? And how can I answer this the best possible way? So you hear things like, the reason I stopped you, you're coming out from behind that closed business at 2:00 in the morning. What were you doing back there? What was I doing back there? Yes, that's what I just asked you. The reason they repeat, right? Listen, you're coming from that house over there where we're watching for narcotics being sold. What were you doing there? What was I doing there? Right? You'll hear those kind of repeated things, right? So the whole idea of cognitive dissonance comes from Jeopardy, and everything springs from Jeopardy. So when you're asking questions, look for that cognitive dissonance. Look for them stumbling through their words. And the best thing to do is if you see somebody's nervous or having a problem, you want to call it out loud. You want to say to yourself, hey, what is it that I'm seeing? Why are you stumbling through your words? Why do you appear nervous? Ask the questions, and that pokes their Jeopardy even more. And you'll see more responses. All right. So we're going to be back again with another episode very, very shortly. I'm going to keep following up through the interview. I'm telling you, go get yourself a copy, blue360media.com or on Amazon, and it will change the trajectory of your career. Our other sponsor is medicalessentialdiagnostics.com. They will give you and 2 adults in your family a complete physical to keep you healthy so you live through your career and then enjoy your pension. So medicalessentialdiagnostics.com and blue360media.com. Support them. Go out and take a look at them. They will help your career. So until we meet again, have a great day, everybody.
Lieutenant Joe and the Blue Heart Podcast Network would like to thank our sponsors. Blue 360 Media. You can find them at www.blue360media.com. And Medical Essential Diagnostics. You can find them at www.med-nj.com. We would also like to thank the Blue Heart Network production team, led by Senior Executive Director Todd Pangaro. Be careful out there. Do what's right.